readjust it from the Ewok height. Mr. Chair, fellow speakers, most people just want to make a difference. That's all. And what I want to do is explain to people why the emergency services in the UK are not only the best, but probably the most misunderstood services that you know of. Now let me explain. Grenfell Tower, the fire that happened there. How much criticism did the fire brigade get from that one incident? Probably one of the largest numbers of deaths since the Second World War in London. They were criticised because they weren't following procedures, or they told people if there was a fire to stay in their flats. Every single fire officer that works in the UK were branded with basically being bad. Ambulance service, the same. Call-outs. Oh, I had to wait 4 hours with somebody laying on a cold pavement because they had a broken arm. Well, that's terrible. That really is. But all the ambulance service personnel are working hard to save the other thousands of people around the UK. But the instant that something happens, they're immediately branded as bad. Now, bringing that up to date, terrorism. You obviously know what happened at the weekend. It was all very sad. And it was only by luck, that what happened wasn't worse than what could have happened. And the reason being was because the police were actually following someone who had just been released from prison. Automatically, no one did any tick sheets or anything to say he was safe. And they followed him because they knew he was coming out, and they weren't sure about him. That was all. And it was just by chance. He didn't wait another day or another week. He did it the day they were watching him. However, had they not have been watching him, and something happened again, like London Bridge or the front of Houses of Parliament, they would have been criticised like they were before. Every single one of them, all coppers are rubbish. They are terrible. But let me tell you, the boys and girls on the front line that work in a uniform have nothing but the best interests and most professional upbringing that they possibly could give to their communities. Now what I want to do is, I just want to tell you a few stories. Most of you probably know I was a police officer. I'm now retired. But let me tell you a story and tell you at the level that the frontline troops work at. And this is the level that everyone expects people to work out. Not all the rest of the management of the organisations, but the frontline troops. Well, the story I'd like to share with you is, I really call him the shoe burglar. There was a shoplifter up in Stratton. He was a terrible, terrible curse on the community. Always out, always nicking stuff, and everyone was fed up with it. Police officers knew him by name, by sight, his address. They even knew him on CCTV when he tried to put his hood up so he could hide. But we knew who he was. Well known. Now, at the same time, we had intelligence going around of a load of burglaries that happened. One of them at the school in Stratton, another one at the cement works in Stratton, another one in different offices. Nobody had a clue who this person was. Apart from, scenes of crime went out and they found footprints on doors where he had washed them in with his foot. Hexagonal patterns, that's all we knew. Nothing more. We didn't know the make, we didn't know anything. Not a lot to go on, really. However, only by chance, I was out and about in Stratton and I saw this lad. And I knew he was wanted for another shoplifting offence. So after a small foot chase, after him running out of puff, and me very close to running out of puff, I got my hands on him. But I dragged him into the station, put him in front of the custody sergeant and said, "Sarge, I've nicked him for another shoplifting offence." And the sergeant went, "Take him to the cells," as you normally do. But don't worry, he didn't fall down any stairs, anybody. How many police officers it take to throw a prisoner down the stairs? None, Sarge, he fell. We won't go into that one again. However, He was dragged down to the cells, placed in, and the door was closed, but his shoes were left outside. Only by chance, and this is exactly how policing works, only by chance did I look down at his shoes. One was face down, the other one was face up. And I went, oh, that pattern looks very familiar. Hexagonal pattern. On a whim, I asked the custody sergeant to open the door. He opened the door. And I said to this young lad, oh, and by the way, I'm also arresting you on suspicion of burglary of these addresses. What does that mean to anybody? Nothing. But in legal terms mean is, when he's arrested on suspicion of those offences, we have extra powers. We can go search his house. Oh yeah. We can go search property. Oh yeah. And guess what? We can also seize stuff as well. Duty inspector, we have this person arrested for burglary. May I go search his home address, please? Duty inspector goes, what's the circumstances? I saw his trainers, sir. I reckon he's our burglar in Stratton. Of course, he says, signs the section 18 and off I go to search his house. It was great. Knocked on the door. Mum opened the door. What the you want to do? Push her out of the way, tried to explain politely, but get into the house and get to his room. And in his room, set up on his little desk right next to his bed, is the projector that he had stolen from the school, set up to his laptop, and was displayed across the wall across the back of the house. It was brilliant. We'll have that, thank you very much. Turn it over, on the back, property of Stratton School. We've got him to rights. That is the grassroots that police officers operate from. On a whim, most of it luck, some of it intelligence, but most of the time is about being in the right place at the right time. Having a little bit of nonce about you, getting out there and doing the job. That is the level that all police officers work under. And I dare say, police officers are trained, they have experience, and they're monitored, and they can produce results like that. I also suggest that fire officers are the same. They train hard for emergencies. They know what they're doing. Let them do their job. And also ambulance staff, highly trained, highly educated. Those three services only ever want to serve their communities to the best of their abilities. They don't wear a suit of armour, but they are an amazing group of individuals. And the next time you do hear anything that happens in any of these services, please don't blame the frontline troops. They are the ones there to do the job and to make us, the community, their prime point of interest. They want to help everybody. Think about when something bad happens and think about management, which are not representative of those organisations. All I can ask is that for you to think that people stood in front of you in a uniform are just human beings trying to do their best. And if I could persuade you in any way to join what's called the awesome movement, I would ask you to do that. And that is, next time you see somebody in uniform, thank them. And perhaps buy them a coffee.
Thank you, Carl. Very good. Any questions for Carl?
What happened to the Stratton burglar person?
And this is a very difficult one to go down because the police service will deal with one aspect, which is the investigation, and they will present the facts to the court. When it gets to court, it's taken out of the police's hands. Most of the time, when I send people to court for offences, I was bitterly disappointed in what sentences were handed out by the court. And I never used to follow them up, because I used to think, what's the point? The only thing I know is that he was sent to a juvenile prison, but I didn't ask for how long, because even if it was only 6 months, in my head it should have been 6 years. I didn't want to know the sentence. He was found guilty, and I know he went down, but for the time period, I'm not sure.
With your experience, police department, would you say that the judiciary, the justice system, is letting the enforcement down?
What I will say on this is that the whole system is divided into sections to ensure that if I had arrested that person, it wasn't me who was going to send him to court, it wasn't me who was going to prosecute him, it wasn't me to make the decision as to whether he was going to go to prison or not. The idea is that I do my bit, someone else does the next bit, someone does the next bit again. It's supposed to be transparent, and it's not supposed to hold any ill grudges or anything else. I'd like to say police, ambulance and fire complete their work to the best of their abilities. What happens past that point and it passes another service, I believe the responsibility past that service. For instance, when it goes to court, it's down to the Crown Prosecution Service and the judges to decide. And if people are in prison, what happens to them in prison, that's the prison service to sort out, whether it's rehabilitation or whether just to keep them in there forever. That part, unfortunately, is taken away from the front line. So the whole system itself is potentially flawed because it's broken down so much, but it is done that way to ensure that one person isn't responsible for the whole lot, that it's evenly shared and it's done as transparently as possible.
Just say that, to pick up on Jan's point, it must be quite demoralising if you do all that work, put somebody away, and then they're back again, literally months later, potentially, causing havoc in their communities because they've been sentenced, haven't been affected, or the rehab hasn't been affected. You must see people coming back over and over again.
There was a fraudster in West Swindon, let's call her Victoria. Sorry, she's in the papers, you can look her up. And she constantly used to go off and defraud people. And she was only a young girl, and she befriended people, stole their credit cards, moved into their house when they felt sorry for her, stole cash out their wallets, went off on spending sprees, got caught, got sent to court. Really sorry, I'm only young, I made a mistake. Don't do it again, kick her out. Cool. A month later, because she's well known, suddenly she's staying with another person who takes pity on her, and you then have to go through the whole system again. And to deal with the fraudster, you're always chasing your tail. You deal with the first one, while you're dealing with the first one, they're still committing their 50, 60, 70, 80th offence, because it's non-stop, they just go constantly. What you have to look at it is a game. For me, if I can catch them early doors, and deal with them for the early offences, if they've committed further down the line, I'll take them into consideration into the offence. But I need to get them put away, and I need to get them put in front of a judge. If the judge says no, it's a new game tomorrow and I've got to start again. That's probably the only sane way you can look at it, to see the system fail beyond you, but you be able to do your part. Certainly on the front line.
Sorry, I've got a question really, because with all the emergency services, it's about having the right information at the right point. So the ambulance people need to know all the information, but with privacy laws, they shut that down because the right for privacy is fighting the right for knowledge, because you as an officer need to know all the information to put the two and two together. Isn't that purely a bureaucracy thing? As in, we have the information, but actually it's not flowing freely to allow us to police, medicate, or to fight fires.
Yep. There's a saying that every time a new law comes out, there's a new red tape factory that gets run out of stock,
yeah,
because it is just a nightmare. And the number of times that things are missed, things are unavailable, or things just aren't accessible for you to do your job to the best of your ability, it's frustrating. But you have to be able to work around that, and you have to try and stay positive. And yes, there are times when you turn up at a scene to a, let's call it a road traffic collision, and ambulance beat you to it because they were closer, people are injured, and you have to talk to people about what happened most of the times, because there's alcohol involved. People sat in the back of the ambulance staff have already asked how much we had to drink. that information is very difficult to get from the ambulance staff because it's been passed over as a medical staff. Frustrating times, but there are ways around. You have to think outside the box, and you have to be able to deal with that situation. Most of the time, certainly for me, I used to sit at the back of the ambulance and follow the person up to hospital and basically seize bloods at the other end, which you can under the road traffic act if you believe to be alcohol involved. Smell alcohol in the person. But you can't ask the ambulance staff, even though they're desperately trying to point you in that direction, stood right next to him, and they're putting all the lines in and putting all the pads on his chest, and they're going, just remind me, and you're stood right by the side, and they say, just remind me how much you've had to drink again? And they're trying their best, but they can't tell us. But they can. It is frustrating. We all know it's frustrating. We all try and help each other out, but we'll never cross the line. It's the best we can do.
Any more? Am I allowed to ask a question?
Of course you can.
So when you watch a lot of fly-on-the-wall documentaries about the police, there just seems to be a total lack of respect. Through your career, did you see that being eroded through your career, where the respect got less and less and less from the police, or has it always been thus?
My thought process on this is that since the introduction of CCTV, mobile phones especially, because people can stick a camera in your face, the level of respect they have for the frontline officer is eroded, because they stick a camera in your face and they try and goad you into doing something that they think is either wrong, and then they'll plaster it everywhere to make a bad name for you. Police officers are very aware of that, and they try their best. But when you have a camera stuck in your face and you're trying to do your job, it's very difficult to do it. When I joined in 2000, the respect was there because what we said went. There was no cameras, there was nothing around. And I can tell you 99.9% of the police officers I worked with were honest, decent, and they stated what happened. There's always two sides to every story, I understand. But as soon as cameras started coming out and people started goading people, it suddenly became difficult. I don't know whether you know about the man that was dragged out of a van by police officers on the side of a road, and the man produced a machete and basically hacked at a police officer's head. It's in London. Well, if you've seen the footage from the camera, it's actually from someone's mobile phone. And what they're doing is they're walking down the road completely unaware, and some bloke in a van is screaming, "Get off me, this is racism." And they think, "Oh, this is great," so they get their phone out and record it. And all they see is this police officer trying to drag this man out of the van. What they missed is the 30 seconds before where the man tried punching the police officer and tried going for the weapon. However, you can only see what's produced in front of you, and the 30 seconds before, as far as the world's concerned, never happened. The responsibility is on that police officer to do his job properly. I also suggest there's a responsibility on the public to report the information correctly. If you have 30 seconds missing, who cares, as long as it shows in front of you? And that's where the respect has gone, because it's not showing the full story. And it is difficult, it's very difficult, and the job has probably become almost impossible in many respects. And it is sad, and hence why I think any person who wears a uniform out and about should have the respect of them doing the best possible job they can. And it's the managers who are responsible for the reputation of the force are the ones that should be blamed if anything goes wrong. We just want to do their best.
So, officer, could you...
Ex-officer, retired officer.
So, Carl's speech, no ordinary uniform, and the audience will be better informed about the work of emergency services, and the object of the speech was to entertain. So, could I please have a show of hands whether you were entertained? Please turn around, Constable.
Detective, please.
I can happily to inform you that your audience was